Okay, again, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining our October meeting. Now, October is the month of Halloween. That's the theme of our initial opening medley. A few Halloween themed songs by Bing. So just sit back and enjoy.
Ooh, that old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. That same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. That same old tingle that I feel inside. And then that elevator starts its ride. And down I go, round and round I go, like a leaf that's caught in the tide. I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name, and I'm aflame with such a burning desire that only your kiss can put out the fire. For you're the love I have waited for, the mate that fate had me created for. And every time your lips meet mine, darling, down I go, round and round I go, in a spin, loving the spin I'm in, under that old black magic called love. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, oh witch, the wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. Wake up, you sleepyhead, rub your eyes, get out of bed. Wake up, the wicked witch is dead. She's gone where the goblins go, below, 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 yo-ho. Let's open up and sing and ring those bells out. Ding dong, the merry-o. Sing it high, sing it low. Let them know the wicked witches. Let them know the wicked witches. Let them know the wicked witch is dead. Why don't you wake up, you sleepyhead, rub your eyes and get out of bed. Wake up, the wicked witch is dead. She's gone where the goblins go, below, 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 yo-ho. Let's open up and sing and ring those bells up. Ding dong, the merry-o. Sing it high, sing it low. Let 'em know the wicked witches. Let 'em know the wicked witches. Let 'em know the tired old witch is dead. Yes, who needs her? We done flipped the switch on the witch. Yes, bye-bye, witch.
Someone flipped the switch on the witch. That's a real Bingism if ever there was one. So hope you enjoyed that, guys. Sorry about the sound variation. I couldn't get the cartoon sound any louder, but hopefully it didn't spoil your enjoyment too much. So at this point in the program, John Munn was due to give his presentation, but he's having problems with his internet connection. So I'm going to bring forward the start of the second half. So just for you, Michael, this is going to be the events of October 1977. So just bear with me. Okay. Yeah, so obviously October is the month of Halloween, but it also is the month that marks Bing's passing. And Bing died on the 14th of October, as you know, and the annual Leeds ICC meetings that were happening around that time was already scheduled for just 2 days later on the 16th. We've got courtesy of Michael, got the invitation here. As you can see, Sunday, October the 16th, 1977, the meeting went ahead as planned. What we've got coming up is um, some audio segments. It includes Bing's last recorded message to the ICC, recorded, believe it or not, on the 6th of October 1977, so 47 years ago to the day today. And it also includes some audio that was taken at the Leeds meeting. You'll hear Michael, who unbelievably, if I show you this is Michael. Thanks so much for sending this. This is Michael's original membership card when he joined the Crosby Society in November of 1957. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. I can't believe you still got that. It's amazing. And you'll hear Michael when he's interviewed by some radio people on that day, on the 16th of October. So yeah, let's hear that, and maybe Michael, if you get a chance to anything you can remember from that day, of course, to share with us afterwards.
Hello, this is Bing, speaking from Chester Square, up in London, where we've spent the past 2 or 3 weeks while working here at the ATV studio and also at the Palladium up in Manchester, Preston. Monday we go down to Brighton and then we go home. I think we have a rather nice Christmas show this year. The idea is rather unique. I can tell you briefly about it. I get a cable from a long-lost relative of mine, signed Percy Crosby, inviting the Crosby family to come to England and spend Christmas season with him in his castle outside of London. So, of course, now, we accept. This is the story of the Christmas show. I hope you don't believe I'm telling you all this as an actual fact. Anyhow, this is the story. And we arrive. And it's a beautiful home. Of course, the butler who greets us is Stanley Baxter playing Hudson. He also plays Mrs. Bridges and Rose. And he runs the house, so we have all kinds of jokes with him and songs and one thing and another. Then my long-lost relative, who I didn't know I had, Sir Percival Crosby, turns out to be Ron Moody. And he has adopted all my mannerisms, all my habits, my way of talking, and my way of singing. Then he speaks about a ghost he's had in the house of a long dead court jester who passed away 200 years ago in that very house. And I say, well, that's really incredible. And there's a puff of smoke, and Stanley Baxter appears as Bob Hope in the cap and bells and all the paraphernalia of the court jester. It seems to me very amusing, but these two gentlemen here don't find it a bit amusing. The worst audience I ever worked for. Anyhow, We got Twiggy, who I think is a singularly appealing young lady. She has a lot of charm. She'll never get rid of that Cockney accent, but I think that's part of her charm, part of her appeal. She's a good little actress, knows her lines, always on time, ready. Also, I mentioned Ron Moody. We have the Trinity Boys Choir from Croydon, remarkable choir. And then we have a special added guest, Mr. David Bowie. You may think it's strange, David Bowie appearing with an ancient like me in a program to celebrate Christmas, because I guess David Bowie has always been known for rock, hard rock, whatever. In fact, I guess he's one of the best. But in this show, he appears clean-shaven. He and I sing a duet. He sings a solo. We play a little scene. And I think he's just wonderful and a very nice young man. So there you have it. I told you all about the Christmas show, and we're going home now. I may stop over in Spain for a little shooting and then go home to do a show be produced by the same people, Hamian and Smith, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Kraft Cheese Corporation in their participation in radio and television, and they're going to use all the people that are around now that were around then, and I'm to be the compere for that thing. We had planned a trip to Japan, but it just seemed too much to do, too tight. I have to get back here the 21st for the Queen's Jubilee, which I may tell you is going to be a massive production. Lord Grade was over here for tea the other day, and he's telling me the cast he has, I don't know how he's going to get them all on the stage or get the show over before dawn, because every important person, practically, that I've ever heard of is in the show. Bob Hope is going to be the compere, but I don't think he'd stay on his feet that long. I'll probably have to help him out. But it's going to be a big show. They're going to raise an awful lot of money, and from the show, they will tape a television show, which will be seen all over England, be seen all over the United States, and, in fact, internationally. So that brings you up fairly well to date on my activities. I've been playing a little golf in spite of the accident, just hitting the ball easy, going out to Sunningdale and Wentworth and Mill Hill and other courses that are close to the city. I have to walk 3 or 4 days, 4 or 4 miles a day. That's part of the therapy. And it's a lot less boring if you can roll a ball along the ground while you're walking. So that's why I play golf. This afternoon, I found myself afflicted with a head cold. I have to do a show tonight, so I don't know how that's going to come out. I'll probably sing Asleep on the Deep. And I want to wish all of you the best greetings of the season and of the year to come. Looks like England's on the upgrade now. Things are happening that are beneficial to the country's economy. They can just straighten out the labor problems and the union problems and the immigrant problems and all the problems that beset them. I think it's going to still be one of the greatest countries in the world. Still my favorite country, and my favorite town is London. So I wish you all a happy Christmas and a very, very prosperous and successful New Year. Hello. Hello there. This is Bing. I want to say hello to all my friends down there at the international meeting at Leeds. Send you along a message. Should I do it again? Hello. Hello, this is Bing Crosby. Just taking advantage of this opportunity. John Bassett was up here taping some stuff. I thought I'd tape a greeting to all the group gathered there at the Crosby International meeting down in Leeds. Up in Leeds, I guess it is. Leeds is north. I wished I was down there with you, but hope my greetings will suffice. Hope everybody has a good time at this very important function, and hope to hear from you all later. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Always your friend, Bing Crosby.
This is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. Der Bingo, the Groner, Old Dad, Bing. Harry Lillis Crosby is dead. It happened in Madrid, Spain. He was playing golf with 3 Spanish champions at a club outside town. When the 17th hole, he was stricken, apparently a heart attack. By the time they got him to the hospital, Bing Crosby was dead. He was 70.
Was taken in the hold of a passenger plane from Madrid. Bing Crosby, who was 73, died in Spain on Friday.
Crosby ever made. as the International Crosby Circle gather in Leeds to mark the death of their president. And Crosby died of a heart attack while playing golf in Madrid. Today, his body was being flown back to Los Angeles for a funeral mass tomorrow, an occasion that's likely to be a bigger ceremony than the singer would have wished. 2,000 people attended his memorial mass in Westminster Cathedral yesterday. And at an hotel in Leeds, 70 members of the International Crosby Circle went ahead with their annual meeting despite the death of their president. The Crosby Circle has 1,000 members, 800 of them in this country. Yesterday, those who couldn't get to the Mass went instead to swap records, photographs and memories at the Circle's annual meeting. The show, they said, must go on.
It would be very easy today for us all to be sombre, to be sad, and for it to be a wail. Well, I'm determined that shall not be the case. I judge that your mood is that you want the show to go on. That's what Bing would have wanted. He took his departure from us in exactly the way probably that he would have wished, and therefore I propose that we go on with the programme as we always have done. Now, the tape I'm about to play for you is probably the last tape that Bing Crosby ever made. He did it whilst his bags were packed, on his way to Spain, and typical of Bing, he was thinking of us here in Leeds today. And this is what Bing had to say.
Hope everybody has a good time at this very important function, and hope to hear from you all later. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Always your friend, Bing Crosby.
You always will be?
Yep.
Back to some music.
I think they'll miss the knowledge that Bing is alive. Now that's an obvious thing to say, of course, but the knowledge that Bing was somewhere in the world, that he might be making a new album, he might be making a new film, he might be writing us a letter. As I say, we weren't personal friends of Bing, I don't suppose. Very few people are. He's like any other individual. He has a few intimate friends, and he has thousands, millions of fans. But the knowledge that Bing was alive somewhere in the world was always a comforting thought, but now he no longer is. I'm afraid it's going to have a very depressing effect. It makes me wonder about our future activities. There is a colossal legacy of records and films, and we all know what television is for showing old films, and we're very thankful that they too show the old films.
But the simple knowledge that Bing isn't there is a disaster.
It's a big loss. You feel a very important part has gone.
If there's one place Crosby will be remembered more than most, it's the village of Kirby Malzard, near his favourite North Yorkshire grouse moors. Last year, his donations rescued the village cricket team and helped pay for a children's playground.
Bing, I understand you've been very generous to the villagers over their sporting facilities.
Well, yes, they have a need here. There's a lot of children that needed a place to play, to exercise, to play cricket, and have swings and one thing and another. Typical things that would be necessary in the playing fields, and I have friends who live here, and they told me about this, so I did a little benefit and raised some money and gave them the money to help them put in these improvements in these much-needed facilities, and we were just down there and took some pictures of me playing cricket, and I did a picture for them to hang on the wall, and very nice people and a wonderful bunch of young kids.
Typically, Crosby was being modest. He'd raised more than £1,200 by charity appearances, all of which he handed over to the village he visited almost every shooting season. The village of Kirby Malzard now has its own Bing Crosby memorial. Locals there remembering Bing Crosby, who was described over the weekend as arguably the biggest star of his generation and a man who will be mourned for a very long time.
Of course, BC also, by chance, Bing Crosby. Now, lots has already been said and written about Bing Crosby, but we feel that we must add our bit tonight because it's become obvious to all of us here how very loved he was and how very shocked a lot of people were by his death. And Bing, of course, loved this part of the world, especially Yorkshire. Here's what he said about Yorkshire in a calendar interview just over 2 years ago.
I love Yorkshire. It's the first time really up here since, well, I went to the York races once this time, but I've been up shooting some grouse, and I love that part of England up there. It's beautiful, and the people are kind, and they're amusing, and very hospitable, and I love York.
Well, Bing came shooting on the North Yorkshire moors at Dallowgill about 2 times running. He was going to come this year, I hear, but didn't come. He was a regular in some of the country pubs over there, and a lot of local residents have good reason to feel grateful for him. His generosity, a donation to the village hall, for example, at Kirby Malzard, and a sizable contribution to children's charities in Leeds. And it was in Leeds this weekend, by pure coincidence, that the International Crosby Circle was meeting. 60 fans stood in silence and then heard a specially recorded tape from Bing, thought to be the last recording he ever made. Phil MacDonald's been along to see the man who organised it.
Hello, this is Bing Crosby. Just taking advantage of this opportunity. John Bassett was up here taping some stuff. I thought I'd tape a greeting to all the group gathered there at the Crosby International meeting down in Leeds. Up in Leeds, I guess it is. Leeds is Nora. I wish I was down there with you, but hope my greeting will suffice. Hope everybody has a good time at this very important function, and hope to hear from you all later. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Always your friend, Bing Crosby.
That was Bing Crosby's last known recorded message. It was made for the International Crosby Circle in Leeds as he was leaving for Spain. How long have you personally been a fan?
Since 1956, so that's just about 21 years. I've been involved in collecting records, involved in what we call Crosbyiana, but there's very much more to Bing than collecting records. That in itself, I think, would satisfy most people, but beyond that, there is the Bing, you know, the universal person, the linguist, the universal man, people that everybody loves.
How often did you meet him?
In recent years, it's been much easier to meet Bing than in previous years, simply because he has warmed to the British people and has in fact stayed here, made his home here for 2 or 3 months a year for about the past 5 years. So I have met him on 3 occasions.
From those meetings and from your links through the club, how would you sum him up?
That is a very difficult question, and it would perhaps be presumptuous for me to in a few words, to sum up Bing Crosby. It's one of the most difficult things that possibly you could be asked to do. But a universal common man, the good man. He stood for things that were good, nothing shady. In the whole 50 years association with Hollywood and records and music.
He had fans all over the world. How did he react to fan worship?
He was always very pleased about the appreciation shown for his work. Very, very pleased indeed, and very sincere about it. People will show you letters from Bing Crosby, answered personally, dating back to the 30s. He continued to do that throughout the whole of his life, and he always answered every letter, over all those years, personally.
So what was your reaction and the club's reaction to the news of his death?
Well, I would say that the majority of people take the view that Bing would have wished for no more than to have left us in the way that he did. To have completed his round of golf and making his way back to the clubhouse, having had a good game of golf, then to take his departure from us. He wouldn't have wished for any more. We also had to come round to the view, and we've been doing this in the past few years really, that someday Bing had to go. He was mortal. We tend to build people like Bing Crosby up, but he is a human being. We're shocked, but we're not saddened. We're not wearing black ties. We're not having any wakes. He wouldn't have wished that. We're going to enjoy the legacy that he's left for us, and what a legacy.
Well, just another sidelight on the Crosby character. A Leeds lady has received a letter from him this morning. Mrs. Mary Mason had written to him expressing sorrow about his burglary last weekend, and she hoped that this wouldn't put him off the British people. And today, through the letterbox, his reply came, certainly one of his last letters. He says, England is always so pleasant to visit. Our recent loss has not dimmed our warm feelings for your charming island or its superb people. Last letter by Bing Crosby. So now let's hear some Crosby. It's a song that he recorded in these very studios, a song that he wrote himself with some very telling lyrics. It's called That's What Life Is All About.
All about. life is like an open book, and as I glance back through its pages, sometimes I take a second look. I see I wasn't too courageous. Life's never easy all the time. The hills you climb often lead nowhere. Of ups and downs, I've had my share, but that's what life is all about. I've had success, some mile declare, and thinking of it gives me pleasure. And I've had some stress, the scars remain, when Lady Luck gave me short measure. When things went wrong, I'd fake a smile, but that's my style, 'cause I've been around. And haven't been around, I've found that's what life is all about. It's been a joy, I can't deny, though some may think I took things lightly. But man and boy, I looked on high, and I never failed to thank him nightly. When I look back, I can't forget the friends I've known and the things they've done. I thank them all, it's been great fun. And as for me, I have no doubt that's what life is all about.
The late Bing Crosby. Good night from all of us here.
Thanks again for sending the audio for that through, Michael. Just to say, on the radio version, when they said we'll play "That's What Life Is All About," they actually played that version that I just showed on video. So I thought I'd play that one because probably there might be people that hadn't seen that before. It was taken from a UK program at the time, and it was called Stars on Sunday, and it was recorded on the 14th of September 1975, so 2 years before. But again, I thought it might have been a version of That's What Life About that most people hadn't seen. So Michael, I know we had a quick email chat around this, and we know that there aren't any pictures or film from that day in Leeds on the 16th of October 77, but you've kept the audio, so thanks for that. Now, it's not perfect, we know that, but we were able to put a video together of that. But I'm wondering what you can remember from that day at all.
Well, Jason, that was excellent. You know, you did your best with the information that we've got. Strangely enough, I've been looking through my Crosby magazines, including Bing Gang, and the 1977 magazines. I've got them all in from 1950 to the present day, with the exception of that year. Why they're missing, I don't know. And also the Bing Gangs are missing. So the events of that day will have been covered in the two magazines. So I shall be trying to find those, and that would have aided memory a little. In my case, it was the Friday evening when I learnt that Bing had died, and it was my good friend, late friend George Smith of Keighley, a great Bing Crosby fan, who rang to ask, as everyone else did, of course, because there were 70 plus people at the meeting, whether the meeting would go ahead. Well, it would have been very difficult for me to ask all 70 people not to come. Some had already arrived for the weekend. So I decided, and I think, well, I'm sure I made the right decision, because everyone that was there confirmed that the show would go on, as I put it, in those days. I mean, it's 47 years have gone by. It's unbelievable, really. And the reason I can't remember a lot about the meeting, other than the press, the Times, the Telegraph, the BBC, ITV, other television programs, all came to my home to the meeting, and now I can't remember what I said to each of all these people, but there was obviously massive interest, and it just, the fact that it was coincident with that Bing had died on the Friday, the meeting was on the Sunday, of course, it generated a tremendous amount of interest. It's emotionally, obviously, it was quite difficult to be able to deal with the fact that there we were celebrating Bing's legacy and music against the fact that he died 2 days previously. But somehow I think that meeting, it went off pretty well, and probably I'm certain that Bing would have wished that to be the case.
The thing that struck me about your comments on during the interview, Michael, was it seemed you were all determined not to be morbid on that day and to be sad, but to carry on celebrating all the good music and stuff. Is that the way it felt on the day?
That's exactly the way it felt. There were 1 or 2 people who were really saddened, you know, and some people are more emotional than others, of course, but the majority were delighted that the meeting carried on, and we were honouring Bing and remembering him. Yeah.
I just wanted to share my screen again. Yeah, just for everybody, this is sorry, this is Michael's original membership card. I think you said you were 14 years old, right, Michael, when you joined?
That's correct. Yeah, 14.
So you've been a member for just 67 years. That must be a record. There can't be anybody else around. Oh, maybe George Riley or somebody like that.
I don't think George, but Jeff Milne goes back to 1950. So, yeah, I mean, he's been an honorary member in and out of the club, but in the early days, of course, he was one of the pioneers, and certainly one of the discographers that resulting in all the discographies that we've now favoured with. You know, he did a massive amount of research, and we haven't heard from him just recently, but when Malcolm last spoke to him, he was 98 years old. So he's possibly the only other person that's a member of the club from the 1950s.
And who was the president here? Is that somebody Hardiman?
Yeah, that's not Hardiman, yes.
Not Hardiman. Okay.
Yeah, she was one of the 4 original people that founded the British Bing Club, as it was called first of all. Yeah, in the first 2 years it was called the British Bing Club, and then it became the British Crosby Society until 1966, when of course it became the International Crosby Circle, and ultimately International Club Crosby.
Yeah, and at the time, obviously, of 77, as you say, we were the International Crosby Circle. I joined in 84, and of course, we were called the International Crosby Circle at that time. I can't remember why we changed it. Was it because we merged with another club?
We merged with Bingham, with the American Club Crosby, of course, and that means that we date back as a club to 1936. And as we move towards the 200th edition of the magazine, no doubt some of us are thinking about whether or not we can, cover a little of the history. The early days are lost in the mists of time, and no one, as I understand it, has a copy of the original copy of Bingham. Some later models from the 30s are available. And of course, all of the magazines for this club, for what was the British club, we have an entire set right from 1950 to this present day, apart from what I've just been telling you, which is 1950, the year Bing died. My magazines are missing. Why, I do not know. So perhaps has a set, or King Croston will have a set, yeah.
Yeah. And up on that day, on the Sunday, I guess there's nobody on this call that was there. Frank, you weren't there, were you, on that day? Yeah, you're on mute, my friend. Sorry.
No, I wasn't. No. I have a memory of attending meetings in the 1960s with Ralph Harding in a room in a London hotel.
Yes, well,
does that ring a bell with anyone?
It does. That's the Crosby Collector. So Ralph used to, there was a Crosby Collector magazine, and that was quite something, really. At one stage, it reached 100 pages of close typewritten, comment, and it was it was a wonderful magazine, really. And how Ralph Harding managed to put it out, I simply do not know, because he did it all himself, typed it all out. Didn't have the modern facilities of computers and that, Amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
But I have a full copy of those. So, we have nearly a history of, we've got the history of the club from probably the 1960s onwards, if we think about the American magazine. The earlier copies have been lost, and the people who know about it have now sadly died.
Indeed.
Jason, I do have a question. I obviously wasn't there because I wasn't even born back in 1977. But I saw the invitation there, and I was wondering, how much was £3.90? Was that an expensive ticket, or because to give us an idea?
No, it was a modest amount. It was a modest amount. Yeah, but as you came forward, it went up and up and up, and inflation has brought us to now. If it was today, it would be £40, 40 English pound instead of £3.
Yeah. I was going to say it looked a bit overpriced to me, actually, Michael. without seeing the menu, I wouldn't be sure.
Well, the first ticket that I've got, it was for 71, and I think it was £1.25 the meal.
Just on the subject of the price of tickets. I know this is slightly off topic, but he was at the Palladium just before he died. I know there were a number of you here tonight that were there at the Palladium. Can any of you remember the price of the tickets?
£5.
Yeah, it was well documented. He didn't Bing himself put that ceiling, that limit of £5. He wouldn't. Yeah.
Goodness me.
And I think the proceeds all went to charity anyway, I think, Grant, from the Palladium concerts.
So if you go to see Taylor Swift, of course, it's several £100.
She was nearly responsible, me not getting home from the last Crosby meeting.
Oh.
Because there were a packed train full of people who caught, I think, this second train to come back from the concert. So I was little solo Bing me and a train full of Taylor Swift fans. But I was very diplomatic on the subject. Sorry?
Is that when you were here, Ian, at Winnick?
Yes. The train, I tried 2 or 3 different entrances, but the train was that packed, standing room only, and it was only just as the whistle was blowing I could leap on, and 2 or 3 kind people moved back just in the entrance so I could get in, all because of Taylor Swift. So it would have been nice if it was because of Bing Crosby. Nicer.
So again, thanks, Michael, because on some of our meetings, we've been able to cover really pieces of ICC history, and I think we've done that again tonight, thanks to you with the audio clips that you've provided, and obviously some of the images here. And again, I know I've said it before, Michael, but if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't even be here having these meetings now, because you started holding the meetings in your mum's front room. Then you had the annual meetings in Leeds, which became an international gathering. I remember I attended some of the last few Leeds meetings, and there were people there from the US, from Australia, from all over. And then you did that for 50 years, and that inspired me the following year to start the meetings that we were having quarterly here in Winwick. Unfortunately, before the lockdown kind of broke that up a wee bit. And we started again, and then the technology came along, and here we are having global, truly international meetings once a month. So I think it all started with you. So thanks, and 67 years a member. Thank you so much. Well done.
Can I just add another deplio to Michael? There wouldn't be a club but for Michael, because when the last editor, Reg Bristow, died, the club was in danger of just folding, quite honestly. And Michael at the Leeds meeting called a number of us together, said, we've got to keep this going. And that's it, all went on. But as I say, if Michael hadn't done that, it would have just folded, because all of us were busy living our lives. And if we hadn't had been nagged into getting involved, it wouldn't have happened.
Oh,
yeah.
Well
done, Michael.
Well done, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, well done also to Malcolm, because I know that Reg was editor when I joined in '84, and I think was Ken Crosland editor for a little while before you took the baton.
Yeah, what happened at Leeds in '89 when Michael called us together? We had this little meeting. I said, well, we really need a leader, because otherwise it's going to be. And so Ken was a bright guy. I said, Ken, you'd be good. So he became editor for 3 years. I said, I'll help you. So I was his assistant for 3 years. And just before each magazine, I used to have to drive over his home, 50 odd miles away. And we'd edit the various bits that had been sent in, all loose bits of paper, which we then send off to John Joyce, who knew a printer. And they would come back with all kinds of, it was chaos, those first few things. Anyway, Ken did it for 3 years, and then he'd had enough, and he asked if I'd carry on, so I did.
How long have you done it for, Malcolm?
32 years.
Woo!
Brilliant. Yeah. Well,
seems like only yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant.
You do a fabulous job, Malcolm. You really did.
Yeah,
it's wonderful, wonderful.
We're certainly taking the magazine to the next level in its production. But I know you always say that it writes itself, because people are always submitting ideas and articles and things. But and you were saying that you usually have to hold things over. So even though the magazine's 56 pages, you have to hold things over. You're getting so much information coming through.
Yeah. And this time, of course, I got it more or less put together, and Catherine died. So I had to take out probably 8 or 9 pages, and we've got various tributes. Michael's written tribute, Judy Smith, Greg Van Beek, Martin McRae, all written nice tributes. And so many people have written in separately. I've got another column with all these nice little letters from people saying when they met Catherine, all that kind of stuff. Some lovely messages.
It's very interesting, Jason, to look back at the editorials of the early pioneers who struggled with the technology, because there wasn't much, with duplicators that were turned on a little drum and things of that kind. The quality of the paper wasn't very good, and no one could afford an expensive magazine. You know, we've reached fortunate times where people can just afford a little more. But looking at some of the, it's a wonder the club sort of was in continuous existence. But that is the case. And in case of Bingham, there's been a magazine all the way from 1936, and as we are now, right through to today, which is just truly amazing. And in fact, in 26, it will be the 90th anniversary of the club.
Yeah. And I would like to also take the opportunity to say in this forum that even though I appear as the North American co-editor, in reality, 99.9999% of the job of the work is carried out by Malcolm. really do very little in comparison. So I think that needs to be said as well.
Thanks, Anton. But your editorial is always very well written and much appreciated.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And I'm working on it, and you'll have it by the 10th, as I promised.
And the other thing, of course, you'll notice that I said we had 1,000 members, and we did indeed reach 1,000. And at times I was telling the printer we need 1,030 or 40 for a few extras. So the diminishing numbers really are down to the age profile, of course, you know, our demographic, if you like.
Sure.
Most, and of course, so many have gone by. There's a story there, though, with some of the people who pioneered and some of the great collectors. Perhaps at some time we might do a little feature on that, because I've got lots of tapes of people who actually contributed to the Leeds meetings from afar, from Ireland, from Australia, and from America, you know. So that at some time might be a feature, just for a little short period. Yeah.
And it is encouraging that we do have young people joining, I think, you know, not just myself, of course, but there's Pantelis and
well, you have to be the youngest,
John Mum and people like this. But one thing I wanted to ask about that clip as well, there was a reference to when Bing was at Kirby Malzahn in Yorkshire playing cricket.
Yes.
And the commentator mentioned that there was a Bing Crosby memorial in Kirby Malzahn. Do you remember anything about that, anybody?
I've not, well, it's not far from where I live, but I've not actually been. I imagine it will be attached to the pub.
Okay, because I had a look on, when I heard that, I had a look on maps, because like you say, it's near you, it's not so far from me, an hour away. And I just had a look on maps to see if that memorial was marked anywhere, but I couldn't see it. So it could be, like you say, it's inside a pub or some other public building or something.
I do have one regret about
Sorry, Michael, I'm sorry.
One regret about what you shown. Being just, I could be there in probably half an hour walking, and he was in Leeds making that what you saw, and doing the stars on Sunday thing, but it was kept extremely quiet, and we only knew about it afterwards. So no opportunity.
Yeah, it's just, yes. And in fact, Frank, you had a similar experience, didn't you, when we talked about Bing recording in London, and you were 10 minutes away from and not knowing he was there. Yeah.
That's right. I was one tube station away from West Hampstead down to Kilburn. I could have walked up there and had a pint with him. I wish I had.
I say, Michael, you ought to go to Kirby Malzahn, see if you can find it.
Oh, right. We're photographed for the mag. Yeah.
Well,
they might well remember Bing. Yeah.
Yeah, but if there's a cricket pavilion, it might well be in the cricket pavilion.
Well, I'm sure. There is a cricket pitch there, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking the same thing on I often go out, you know, different places for a day. So I put that one on my list, and we'll do the same. So I must admit, I was also hoping that Howard had stayed on the call for his recollections of that day around the time when Bing died. But unfortunately, he dropped off the call before we finished the video.
Just to remind you who weren't there at the time, but it was on the Friday night on the television. BBC interrupted the programmes to say Bing Crosby has died, just like that. Just stop the programme dead, whatever it was. I can't think what it was. And then at ITV at 10 o'clock, the full details came out. But it was such a shock. I felt as though I'd lost a relative. You know, it was awful, really. And there were quite a few tribute. There's a lovely tribute. Teddy Johnson. Teddy Johnson the next day had a radio program, DJ type program, and he did a lovely tribute. And he finished up with the song "When I Leave the World Behind," which I'd never heard before. I was driving the car; I almost had to stop, and listen to it.
From the Feels Good, Feels Right album, you mean?
Yeah.
Just had that pop through my letterbox yesterday, with the extra 3 tracks on. So that's very current for me at the moment on CD.
I think you're right, Malcolm. It's like for those of us on this call, it was like a JFK moment when everybody says they remember where they were at the time it was announced, because it was the same for me. I heard the interruption on TV, even though I was in another room, and heard the announcement and went in to hear it. So, Mr. Palumbo, welcome. How are you?
Hey,
Good to
how
see
you doing?
again. Yeah,
What's
good to see
happening?
you
Sorry
again.
I'm
Thanks
late.
for joining.
I got held
No,
up.
no problem. We're just about to have a break.
Nothing personal. Nothing personal.
Hey, I've been there. I've been there. Yeah, Bing died. Bing in 77. Yep, I remember that well. Yeah. I was just a little kid, but I remember my dad was really upset. You know, he was upset by it for sure. You know.
Well, Malcolm,
Because
what you were saying about having to adjust the magazine last minute because of Catherine's passing, I was in the same conundrum, and I thought I can't do a tribute to Catherine, and I've got this program for Bing's passing. It would be a bit heavy, so that's why I thought, no, we'll park that until we'll park Catherine's tribute for November. And like I said, folks, anybody that's got any memory or recollection, because I know some of you, you know, would have known Catherine or corresponded with her or met her on occasions. Any stories that you've got, let me know by email. And like I say, we'll knit those in between a few TV clips and records next time. Cool. So yeah, as I say, I was hoping that Howard would have stayed on the call. I'm sure he would have had some memories, family, you know, related memories of that time. Okay, right. Well, that's our first hour, guys. I'm not going to start the next session. As I say, hopefully John Munn will be with us for the second half. If not, we always have a fallback program anyway. So, anybody got anything else to say about?
Jason, I'm just pleased that Jim is with us and that he's seeing Ian, and Ian didn't actually expire at the last meeting. If you remember, he was ill, and you were saying, you know, this could be a first, losing a member on the. It was so funny.
Yeah, I was worried about that, you know, because I mean, let's face it, it's a Bing Crosby fan club. You know, subscriptions are not exactly.
I certainly haven't got room for any more tributes.
I was going to say, yes, it would be top heavy of death tributes, wouldn't it, if I dropped dead at this particular meeting? But I have no plans in doing so.
Everybody wants to do a big tribute to Bing and Catherine Memorial, but we have to do it about individual members now. The magazine will be this thick, you know.
The material on me would be very short on the ground indeed, I can tell you. So it wouldn't take very long at all.
Well, just earlier, I was saying that we, not long ago, year or two, we had 1,000 members. And now, of course, we're very diminished, and it's due to age, people departing. Yeah,
I mean, I talk about Bing sometimes on my podcast, and my audience is not a Bing Crosby audience. And I do it mostly, my co-host is only 39. And, you know, he wouldn't have any idea other than maybe the song White Christmas, but I don't even know if you would know that. So I giggle sometimes when I read Gary Giddens, his book, you know, and started getting into the more of the historical parts of Bing Crosby. But he looks at me like, what are you talking about, Bing Crosby? You know, I said, listen, if you're not nice, I'll go into Percy Faith in a minute. So, you know, Percy Faith is funny. It sounds funny. When in doubt, say, if you're ever on stage, just say Percy Faith.
And his summer place. What the really sad thing is, I find with my group, well, until I put them right about all this, but I'll say Bing Crosby, because they're all around, I don't know, 40-ish to 60-ish. I'm 55, something like that. And you say Bing Crosby to them, and okay, the road, at least they'll remember the road films, because they're occasionally still shown on television here. But it's the road films, it's White Christmas and Beating Children. That's it. And it's such a shame. At least I'm able to put them right on the Beating Children side of things, because the last thing I read on YouTube about him, I think somebody had put a tribute to Catherine, and then the comments underneath on YouTube, somebody was writing about broken bones.
Really. Yeah,
This is just unbelievable that it's got
Exaggeration,
that
isn't it?
bad. Not just my friends, but also these terrible comments on YouTube, and it's so sad because popular culture, it's only really good for its original audience. It ain't not only good, it only lasts generally. I know we have the Beatles and Sinatra as exceptions, but it's such a shame that it doesn't last as classical culture does. I mean, I'm accused of antiquity by my friends for liking Bing, and yet we can all go to see a Handel concert together, or by a composer that's even
That's
earlier.
true.
It's 500. You know, the music can be as old as 500 years old if we're going that far back, and we're all happy to do that. But the moment you start to watch a black and white film, panic.
Yep. I think the biggest thing is, and you guys have all covered this 1,000 times, but it's how, and I'm amazed being in showbiz myself, how big he actually was. I mean, we're not talking about, again, the field was smaller. You know, you just had, there wasn't even television, so you had live and radio. But the power of radio, and I did radio for a number of years, and I guess podcasting is, I treat my podcast like it's radio, because I love that. But the power of radio, you know, everybody's had a little thing in the home, and housewives and guys coming home from work, and he would get the evening. I remember they had evening papers too. So even my dad told me that, you know, his father would, you know, the evening paper, sitting next to the radio, either smoking a pipe or having a glass of wine, and reading the evening paper. Even the fact of an evening paper sounds crazy. And he would have, you know, the Bing Crosby show in the background, or a housewife would have it on in the morning, whatever the hell he was on. And he was such a big, and then, you know, from like all through the 40s with the movie, I think he was #1 at the box office from 38 to 48. I mean, how many people even today can be #1 at the box office for 10 years? I mean, some do, you know, you get your Tom Hanks, I think, and some other guys, but and yet he's, I think it's because of the coolness of maybe maybe there's a sexy thing with Sinatra that transcends, you know.
Yeah.
But you guys have even covered that over the years. But or the black and white movie thing, or you know, maybe a little bit of the unfortunate book that was written. I mean, the more I think back to that book, you know, I know he admitted and mea culpas and all that, but man, what a tragic thing to ruin someone's 40 or 50 year what you thought about him for so long. Plus, you know, we didn't know, anybody talk about this? I know now we know how sick he was. But back then, I was like 12 or 13 when he died, but we didn't know he was that ill, or probably we did. My dad probably didn't realize how actually old he was. We didn't realize how he was getting so much older. So when he died, it was quite a shock. Now, of course, you hear about it. We knew he fell and all that, but now, of course, it really shows that he was quite, you know, his body was falling apart a little bit due to various things, surgeries and so on and so forth. But back then we didn't know any of that, so it was much more of a shock.
No, there wasn't the information available then, wasn't there? And also between countries, you have to remember that you would have known maybe just a little bit more as a nation in America. The falling off the stage at Pasadena.
Right.
That probably wouldn't have been, I mean, Malcolm and various others that were around at the time could probably put me right here. But unless you were a Crosby fan, I doubt that you would have known anything like that. I doubt very, very much that the general public would have been aware of that.
Plus at the end there, this is anybody's in showbiz on this list, and I am, but I'm 59. Who the hell knows how long I got left in this biz? But the coolest thing about Bing Crosby, I think, is being in showbiz. You see a lot of these older actors, they got to whore themselves out. They're on a shitty Netflix show. They're doing commercials for, you know, Bing always had the orange juice, but he was invested in that.
Yeah.
Bing didn't have to, he did his he didn't have to work, nor did he really want to. He had enough money. He had his second family. So he didn't have to do, oh, you got to do. I mean, even to do the Barbara Walters interview, that must have, the bullshit, excuse my language, the BS that producer from Barbara Walters to get Bing Crosby, I don't know who, somebody was paid off to the left or right because Bing didn't have, and if you listen to that interview, he looks like someone who's like, I know you're big, Barbara Walters, but you're just some lady. I don't even care. Like, what are you talking? Like, and that's what power. That to me is power. When you don't have to work, and not even financially, you're not desperate for the attention. Like Sinatra didn't need the money, but I think he needed the people to say how much they loved him. Bing didn't care about that. He cared about his own family. You know?
I think he enjoyed.
It's power. It's powerful.
I think it's fair to say from the interviews that he gave that he still very much enjoyed performing, but I don't think he was addicted to it, was he? As Sinatra was. I've got a book by Shirley MacLaine where she discusses a lot of her co-stars and various people that she worked with over the years, and it was published, I think, 2 or 3 years before Sinatra died, and she'd worked with him about a couple of years before she wrote the book, and she did say that the moment Frank stops to perform, that's the day he'll start to die, and of course that's precisely pretty much what happened.
You know, I actually got a story for you guys. You might get a kick out of it. So there was this Irish bar in Los Angeles down off Fairfax. It's almost like there's a couple of houses near it. And you go in there and they have these, the shamrocks with people's names on it. And they're all over the place, right? So we went in there after softball every Tuesday night. And this bar had like this reeked of Hollywood old. I loved it. It was the coolest bar ever. And I got to know the old bartender who looked like he was about to drop dead. And he said, he did. You ever have a bartender like that where you're like, hey, get me a drink, but please don't hurt yourself. So he's sitting there telling me one night, I said, this place is great. He goes, yeah, well, this bar was built in 1920. He was going through and he was giving me history. And he goes, you know, in the booth over there, that's where Cary Grant ate in here 4 or 5 nights a week. Matter of fact, we called it when Cary Grant died, we called it the Cary Grant booth, blah, blah, blah. So, and he goes, yeah, some old timers used to come in here, you know, Bing Crosby. I said, whoa, what? He goes, oh, yeah. He looks up, way up to the top is a shamrock, and it was the 3 original owners and Bing Crosby. So the guy goes, he goes, look, everybody in here knows damn well Bing Crosby owned this bar. He had money in it. But back then, you couldn't own a bar. It wasn't cool. It wasn't against the law, but it's just your agent and managers and your PR people didn't want alcohol associated with. But he goes, Bing had a cut of this, and we think maybe Cary Grant did too. They went in on it together, but it was all under another guidance of a thing. So I'm looking up at this thing. I'm like, oh my God, there it is. It says B-Crosby way up, and it was all kind of dusty and cool. Wouldn't you know, a year later, the guy comes up to me and goes, hey, Jimmy, you're the only one that takes an interest in who's up on the walls way in the corner. Because there was all these other actors, too, that you guys all know. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, listen, we're doing once a year, we give a customer a shamrock. And I said, oh, okay. And he's like, we're going to give you one. I was like, no way. Are you kidding me? I was totally into it. And he goes, and we're going to put you as close as we can to Bing Crosby because no one in this bar has ever asked to be close to Bing Crosby. And I said, you got it, man. So we took pictures I got pictures somewhere. Next time I'll send them to you. And there I am, putting my name up, blah, blah, blah. Next thing, but it was like the honor of a lifetime. Then I heard the bar closed for a little bit, maybe COVID and stuff, and it reopened. But I never found out if they got rid of all the shamrocks, which people didn't realize how many really cool old celebrities were in there, and the fact that, and Bing watched the USC road games from there, and he goes, "Hey, we come in here." He goes, "The biggest thing was the bartenders protected him because the minute someone talked about, oh my God, I love you,' and he was polite, but he moved away from you. He wanted to just sit there and have a beer and a sandwich and watch USC, and that's the kind of guy he was. I love that. Who wants to talk about showbiz when you're watching a damn game anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool. All right, thanks for that, Jimmy. Thanks, Ian. We're going to take a bit of a break, guys.
Oh, sorry, your break. I forgot.
No, it's fine. But what we'll do is we'll take a comfort break and we'll come back at, say, 5 minutes past the hour. Is that okay? For a quick break.
That's fine.
Great stuff. Okay, guys.